Russian President Vladimir Putin met with President of the World Development Bank, UNICEF, as world leaders continue to arrive for the BRICS summit. And on Monday night, Cuba confirmed 1,931 connected circuits as the country continues to recover its electric system. The United Nations Children's Fund reiterates its call for urgent action on the dire conditions in which thousands of children are surviving in the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, highlighted the funding provided by the new development bank to about 100 projects since 2018. When briefing the meeting held with the President of the new development bank, UNICEF, within the framework of the BRICS summit in Kazan, the Russian head of state praised the close to $33 billion the entity has invested on projects. The reunion addressed the financial institution's approach and its benefits for the group and its geostrategic interests. The Russian leader also pointed out that the new BRICS Development Bank has been a great alternative against Western financial methods, as the increase in local currency transactions has succeeded in reducing debt, servicing fees, thus increasing the financial independence of the BRICS country. Likewise, the Russian President Vladimir Putin held a meeting on Tuesday with the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, where he asserted that Moscow values the interaction with New Delhi within the framework of BRICS, noting that the summit further seeks to expand and strengthen cooperation between its member countries. At the encounter, Putin highlighted the good state of cooperation and trade between his state and India. For his part, Modi welcomed the deepening of ties between the two countries and expressed his commitment to a peaceful and diplomatic resolution of the conflict with Ukraine. Also in the framework of the BRICS summit, President Vladimir Putin met with his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa in the Russian city of Kazan, agreeing the commitment to achieve a fair world order. In the encounter, as president of the bloc, Russia highlighted the results of the country's bilateral policy based on the guidelines and projections of the 2023 summit held in South Africa, and assured it attaches particular importance to strengthening relations with all the countries of the African continent. On the other end, the Ramaphosa stated the BRICS have the potential to lead changes in the global economy because they represent 27% of the world's gross domestic product. And to go deeper on the analysis of this year's BRICS summit, we are joined by international law expert Dr. Yvonne Telles. Hello, Yvonne. Welcome to From the South.
Hello, good morning, Luis. Happy to be here.
The agenda is moving forward as the BRICS 2024 summit kickstarts. President Vladimir Putin has held bilateral talks with attending heads of states and government. What can you tell us of this year's agenda and the impact it can have as member states and partners aim to reduce inequalities in the world?
Definitely, yes. Well, we have to take into account the importance of BRICS, because the 5 countries that currently make up the bloc represent more than 42% of the global population. That's 34% of the world's territory, 23% of the gross domestic product, and that's the 18% of the global trade. That means that the BRICS countries represent around 36.8 of the global GDP, surpassing the G7. So that's something that we have to take into account, because that could definitely impact the world order. The world order, because we are reshaping it. It's like a pivotal moment in the world order, because now with the BRICS representing and including geopolitically significant countries, the group could become a bastion for the multipolar system. And moreover, in this world right now, where the United States and its allies continue to exert pressure on the international community, BRICS offers an alternative aim at promoting sovereign equality and the diversity of civilization, allowing for new countries, global South countries, to enter into this new platform of decision.
Cooperation, as you were saying, Yvonne, within the BRICS format reaches many fields. Just recently, the Venezuelan news media VTV signed a memorandum of understanding for cooperation with BRICS TV. With this, they plan to face media campaigns led by Western powers against the people of the Global South and beyond. How important is BRICS' role to act as a counterweight, we could say, against Western hegemonic powers in different fields?
Well, there's a lot to say because we have to take into account as well that what we're seeing right now is the emergence of this new powerful states, emergent economies from the global south, and for example, talking about Venezuela or Bolivia, how strategic they are right now for the current world order. I'm talking about, for example, the oil reserves that Venezuela has and the lithium reserves that Bolivia has. So within this context, what we're seeing is that this new platform, represents like a countermeasure for this usual hegemonic status of the world order. And that means also that the new decisions that could be taken within the BRICS community and within this summit could, in a way, transform what we're seeing right now, because that means, for example, moving away from the SWIFT platform. That means moving away from the usual markets, taking into account as well that we have China over here, and China is a primary consumer of raw products from global south. So that means that what we're doing right now is to try to counterbalance this inequitable system, this inequitable world order, regarding the economic area in the main sense. So that means that with this new platform of decision and representing more than the 30% of the gross population, it could have a great impact, and it also can act as a countermeasure for these economic sanctions that countries such as Venezuela, Cuba, Russia, and some others, Iran as well, are facing right now. And just we have to look that these powers, these countries right now are getting together, and within this platform of integration, that means that they grow stronger, even, for example, in international forums such as the United Nations.
Unfortunately, as this BRICS summit takes place, the Israeli genocide against the people of Palestine continues, as well as the increased aggressions against Lebanon and Syria. This is also going to be on the table of this summit. How can BRICS help bring an end to Tel Aviv's policies and secure peace and stability in the region?
Yes, that's true. What we're seeing right now is that this summit is like a key space to consolidate greater economic independence for the developing countries. That means that what we can see is probable support for Lebanon, for Palestine from the new emergent countries, the new emergent economies, and from the countries that are seeking, also not just the usual BRICS, but all these new countries that have come inside this group, because it's just like a global forum, right? Not an international organization in itself. So that means that what we can see is at least an attempt to bring some kind of pacification, or aims at helping build these new agreements, and of course pose again a counterbalance against, for example, Israel within the Middle East. And well, also we have to take into account that means that, for example, Iran and China are great partners of Russia, and that means that this agreement will allow and will provide also Russia, for example, with new heirs of economic freshness regarding the economic sanctions that is facing from the West. So we can see this summit is a great opportunity to see at least the first steps for a shift and a counterbalance, because it will represent some options to reshape the world order, and we have to see how many countries will be present at the summit. There's an expectancy of at least 60 countries that will come inside the summit. So that means a lot, and that means a great number of countries outside the Western and the usual international forums. So that is a representative number.
Yvonne, one final question. In your opinion, what do you expect to come out from this BRICS summit in the current context that we're living on?
Okay, I think that one of the first objectives that we're seeking here and that we can look at is the great opportunity for the Global South to join the bloc and to try to build a new era of multilateralism. Why do I say this? Because it's like a moment for a global redefinition of the Global South and how the Global South is entering and is playing in the international forum. Also, we're talking about not just the bloc expansion, the BRICS expansion, we're talking about the technology transfer, the alternative to the dollar, and new financing formulas. So definitely this shows that we can see a potential to offer more economic alternatives for the Global South, for Latin American countries, and for other developing regions. Also, what they are seeking at and they aiming at, like, to try to put a more equitable platform of exchange. So that means, again, a counterweight to the usual, for example, IMF solutions that have only brought poverty, inequity within our regions. So I think that this opportunity offers a chance for a deeper level of integration with a probability for establishing free trade agreements, strengthened mechanisms, for example, such as the BRICS Bank and this alternative payment system for that goes and takes a step back from the SWIFT platform. So I think we're talking about three different areas, and those are crucial for this new world order that we're seeking at.
Thank you, Yvonne, very much for your time and your inputs hearing from the South.
Thank you very much for having me.
It was a pleasure. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We continue on the topic of the BRICS Summit. We go now live to Kazan with our special envoy, Yunus on Air, for the latest information.
Good evening from the city of Kazan in the Russian Federation, where the BRICS Summit is getting into motion. Today, within an hour or so, the official welcoming ceremony will be held here. But still, leaders are arriving. Just minutes ago, I saw the Indonesian president arriving at the airport of Kazan, which has been live streamed here in the convention center where we are at, where this summit takes place. During the day, dozens of leaders have arrived here in the city, members of BRICS, as well as other leaders whose countries would like to join this alliance. In total, 36 countries will participate in this summit, 22 at the level of head of government or head of state. So what happened during this day? Mostly bilateral meetings, and most of them taking place with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, as his country has the chairmanship in this year of BRICS. So Putin welcomed the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, and they had a very warm meeting, as it was reflected by their statements. Putin said, we have so good relations, I quote, that we don't need a translator. Modi replied, smiling, and after the meeting he stated on social media that his meeting with Putin was wonderful, end of quote. Similarly, the president of South Africa qualified after his meeting with the Russian president that Russia is a valuable ally of his country. The Chinese President Xi Jinping also arrived today here and had his bilateral meeting with Vladimir Putin. Xi Jinping spoke of tectonic shifts in the global order, but emphasized the strategic relationship, the strategic alliance between Russia and China, and of course in the framework of BRICS as well. Other leaders also met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. An important leader who arrived today here in the city of Kazan was Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Abbas has been in Moscow and has held there already meetings with Putin before, and he was invited there to attend the BRICS summit here. And here, in that context, it is worth mentioning that his ambassador to Moscow back in summer had, in an interview given to the local media, mentioned or declared his country's, Palestine's, ambition to join the BRICS as well. Well, that would be an important step, obviously, as the other multilateral organizations fail to assist Palestine in its defense against Israeli aggression. Speaking of which, another important guest will be the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Important because he has not been visiting Russia since 2022, the year that the war in Ukraine started, and his announcement to attend BRICS summit was criticized harshly by the Ukrainian presidency. Almost he was labeled as a traitor, treatment which reminds of actually Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister's reaction or criticism against the UN Secretary General. So he will also attend this meeting, which tonight begins with a welcoming ceremony and the cultural program. The leaders will have a dinner together. Tomorrow, the program starts officially and fully with two different sessions talking about the matter of BRICS expansion. There is approximately 30 countries.
Sorry, Eunice, to cut you short, but we have to go live to Venezuela. Diosdado Cabello is offering statements.
This is Mr. Juan Manuel Larva, who is the president of the Institute, Juan Manuel Lara Villalobos, the president of the urban municipality of Mao, and Mr. David Villalobos Ortega, this citizen who is called Alberto Silva. So far, it has been controversial, his functions on the mayor's office, but what is true is that he has a great power to decide and to manage resources. Some people say he was the manager of resources, and then there's Mr. Pedro Guanipa, former director of the mayor's office, as former director because he's already arrested, and he's the brother of Juan Pablo Guanipa and Tomás Guanipa, of that same family. And then it is Mr. Alberto Pucci. Pucci was hired a hireman who was paying people, and Alberto Silva. All of this has been pointing directly that one of the involved is Juan Pablo Guanipa. We say this with all steadfastness of the case because it is one of the people who have defended the things that we cannot defend, and he has been in solidarity with criminals. He has to do it because he's part of it. And we have testimonies of some of them that we are going to present, and some others we cannot present it yet. And it is crystal clear that this is a corruption plot dismantled and in process of dismantling in the mayor office of Maracaibo, and these are not the only ones involved. There are more people involved, and here there's a group of people. Mrs. Margarita Asensa, General Director of the Private Secretary of the Mayor's Office, and Diana Barros and the Diana Patricia, who's being on search. And so we have the statements of them, and some of them have been holding accountable of what they did. And so I am going to share with you some information from the less to the higher seriousness. And so we will listen to Margarita Asensa. Let's put the video. The total financing of the mayor's office has been provided by Luis Alberto Silva, and all of which has to do all of the resources for the mayor's office has been out of. Well, another point is the president. However, the director Miriam Ramos was accountable for these operations, and regarding the political mobilizations that I could observe, all of these mobilizations were paid off by another person. Well, this is the first part. The lady said these are seven companies hired in the Maracaibo municipality for collecting garbage. From the south is Madeleine. Who else is from Maracaibo? Do you know the disaster in which Maracaibo is in? Tons of garbages, and they have 7 companies hired with the same purpose, and that the stalling of state resources has been there only in the hiring of 7 companies with the same purpose, with restructuring of offices, restructuring of offices with high prices. And so this was discovered by the audit within this investigation. And I come back to, for example, this gentleman, Pedro Guanipa, dispatches from an office of a company that was hired by the mayor's office. What he said in his defense, let's listen to him. That's not the mayor. Pardon me. Let's start with the mayor. I can tell that the heads of the parishes, who are 18 presidents of parishes, well, when there wasn't, we don't do cuts, but eventually, if we have to move the parishes, and I told you with a lot of responsibility, we gave $100 for the Holocaust. We did so. I need to pay some things, and so that was what the mayor said. To pay colleges, to pay batteries, and so on. So anyone could think that there can not be any problem in that kinds of activities. But let's see, the pay on the... How can you pay at the exit of the place? Well, that depends on... Sometimes we didn't collect the money, but we say some of them that help with the contribution to, if they were going out of... How can you pay them in the... Well, that depends on the situation, because that's the only way, because they didn't provide any bigger contributions, and it wouldn't surpass $5,000 or something like that. $5,000 multiplied by 28. He asked money to entrepreneurs to pay those justice office officials. I am going to tell you something. The Venezuelan opposition is bad. In the opposing, but it is worst ruling. Every time they take office to take the post, they deployed a kind of mob for corruption, and so another person who's for corruption. And so another person who's detained, who is Pedro Guanipi, and the main video we just let's listen the videos. Sometimes I have to ask for the money, and so I made the money come to the son of Juan Pablo and Albert. Meanwhile, these payments do not appear, and that director. What was the procedure for making that payment? And I don't know how the procedure was. Maybe it was from a bill or a cash. I am not clear about it, but and it appears again Mr. Alejandro Silva. Mr. Guanipa said that he didn't know how the procedure was, but it is crystal clear that he knows the procedure. This Mr. Alberto Silva, pay attention that he has been named in several times with different responsibilities, but we are not clear his main role. But it is true that he was taking the lead in money issues. There were $3,000 every 15 days, and this was paid at the beginning of the year, or maybe at the end of last year. Well, he said that he was talking about $3,000 every 15 days, but actually were every 7 days. And Guanipa, if you want, you can say it is a lie, but I am going to show you the evidence. You can say, and your brother is going to say at which you spend that money. But it is the double standard. I am not talking about moral, but the double standard of them. I remember the case of Ronald Carreño, that he spent the money for the operation of children to buy some cars to. That's the way the opposition acts. The money of the surgical operations of children, that were operations overseas of the Bolivar operation. Mr. Guanipa, Pedro Guanipa, has another statement to make. My name is Pedro Miguel Guanipa Villalobos, and ID 7,834,000. Right now, I am a director of the dispatch of the mayor office in Maracaibo. I am brother of Tomás and Juan Pablo Guanipa, and I am from the party of Primero Justicia, and I want to express my knowledge of the funding to political activities of my brother Juan Pablo Guanipa by the mayor office in Maracaibo, and that that financing surpasses $100,000 per month. And today, I know that that Alberto Silva is in charge of that operation, and it is in my knowledge the financing that Maracaibo's mayor office did for campaign activities of Edmundo González and Maria Corina Machado to support with mobilizations, cars, food, sounds for those activities. Such activities surpass $50,000, and in both cases, activities have been authorized with the knowledge of the mayor of Maracaibo, Rafael Ramirez. Without pressures of any kind, this citizen, Pedro Guanipa, talks about that from his mayor office, they deliver resources. Actually, there were $50,000 per week, and that money was coming from the collection of garbage in Maracaibo, because they pay it, but they didn't collect the garbage, and so they financed activities of mobilization of the campaign of Edmundo González when he was at the Zulia estate. He said it. This sir said it, who was one of the the active participants in those acts of campaign, of electoral campaign in the Zulia state. I must clarify that this is the first delivery. There are a number of officials of the mayor's office, councillors, that are part of this corrupted mob of this, that they are part of this investigation. There are other people arrested and are at the order of trials, of course, and we consider necessary to inform the country, and most of all the Zulia state and Maracaibo municipality, because they try to manipulate. And I hope that those who have come out listen to this conversation of Mr. Pedro Guanipa and listen to the own mayor, that he seemed that $5,000 are nothing. If you multiplied by 18 parishes, maybe it is nothing for them, because they are used to earning the money of the mayor office for their pockets. And the lady talked about that since she took office 2 years ago, this was her routine, and all a plot of corruption who's been dismantling in the municipality of Maracaibo. If you've got any questions, I appreciate it. Madeline Garcia of teleSUR. Hi, how are you doing, Minister? Well, I would like to know that if within this plot, part of that money they financed commanditors, criminal groups, and if these in the National Assembly, their legislators are debating on the modification of the law to avoid this kind of situation, and what scope has this kind of corruption? Well, regarding the campaign, a part of he pointed out directly Mr. Guanipa and the mayor, but the mayor talked clearer about their involvement with Manuel Rosales in all these electoral campaign activities. It is pursuing the politics without. We could say that they are not politicians. They are not politicians. They are people involved with companies taking posts to be richer, and they see these corruption activities as ordinary, as normal, as a normal fact, event, an event in which they sealed agreements and delivered money to the leaders of their parties. And let's recall that we present before the National Assembly some checks in which the Leopoldo Lopez's mother was attached to PDVSA, and she takes the money of PDVSA to construct a political party to his son, because for them the politics is like that. It's not the politics of service, and with all certainty I've got no hesitations. These involvements go beyond this has to do with the events of violence that have been occurring across nationwide, and I have no doubts about it. The country must know that we will continue doing what it is up to us to determine the guilty ones, and the country must know that any of these incidents will go unpunished. I must say, They are just like crazy, sending messages to clear this, and there's nothing to be clarified because this is not part of the negotiation. And they have sent me a lot of messages as a minister to reach agreements, but there's no agreements because the only agreement is that law must be imposed, and they must know it. And tomorrow they will say that Mr. Ramirez is a political persecuted, and tomorrow they will say that Mr. Guanipa was under the effects of whatever, and they must surely be prepared about it, but without any pressures. Pedro Miguel have been talking about how the things work in that mayor's office. He pointed out Mr. Silva directly, and he mentioned his brother too regarding this situation. Another question? And the question is by Eliro Rojas of the Últimas Noticias Daily and Iguana TV. Good afternoon, Minister. Greetings. Good afternoon. It is being suggested from your presentation, it is open there, the involvement of this group, of this criminal group, because it is they are already on trials and are charged with violent acts. I ask, will they have any attached to the latest procedure of arms seizure in the Zulia state? Because you mentioned at the press briefing, when you referred to the arms seizure, that there were a group in Zulia, they know who they are, that are involved behind this seizure of weapons. And secondly, what's the responsibility of the National Directorate of Justice? Well, thank you for your question. This is the leverage of the delivery by portions, that we can't add things. These are investigations underway, and the attachments with the bad-called Comanditos criminal groups, there are no hesitations about the financing of Maracaibo to the Zulia state, and the attachments with violence. There are a group of people in Zulia state. I presented a U.S. citizen that had direct attachments in Zulia state, and that he used as a facade, as a disguise, as an alibi, the religious issue, and so he was there disguised in churches, and for that gentleman they were offering $500,000 and $1 million for the police to release him. And so that's the importance of his involvement with those criminal groups and the criminal groups of violence as such. We will be informing and providing details of each of what we've been clarifying, because we have been delivering things with proofs. So far, no one has said they are lies. On the contrary, I said it at some point that those who were defending Mr. Ramirez, they would fall by themselves, because it is the same Mr. Ramirez and the director of the mayor's office. Both of them explained how this plot of corruption has been working. And so we will be informing gradually. You asked for the weapons, and the second question was about, well, pardon me. Well, they are very responsible. They have never taken responsibility of holding responsibility of anything. It is their problem, right? Their justice, Mr. Brito leads far apart from the Primero Justicia Party. They are being fighting each other, accusing each other of corruption, because when Capriles accuses Borges of bad management, of bad administrative management, he charged him with corruption. And Capriles heard about this today. He knows it for a long time. That political direction, Mr. Juan Pablo Guanipa, surely he will come out to say, and I am going to say to you something. Remember a name, Napoleon. I am only tell you this because what you will say it supporting this investigation for ethical reasons and for religious reasons. I won't say in which you spent the money that you. It is hard that this political organization hold responsibility for any of this. They stormed an embassy on April 11. They participated at a coup d'état, and if you ask them, they said that they weren't there. So they are just babies. They claim they are just babies. Well, the last question is by Maria Jimenez from Venezolana TV. Good afternoon, Minister. The question is oriented to the recent publications of the prosecutor's office about the detention of former Minister of Oil, Pedro Terechea, for serious crimes against the oil industry. From this ministry, Interior Ministry, is there any official statement about this specific case, mostly about the crusade launched by the Venezuelan state in the fight against corruption, against any crimes against the nation? Well, it is not the affair, but I am going to answer. Across for these 25 years, the Bolivarian Revolution has to carry out investigations to people who have been involved in the Bolivarian Revolution. Remember the case of Baduel, who then became praised by the opposition, and at the same time Commander Chavez was in front of an investigation, and maybe President Nicolás Maduro has launched a crusade of fight against corruption, and all corruption is accompanied, and it is an anti-value accompanied by treason. And President Maduro has been crystal clear about it. Whoever who is involved in corruption, in the specific case of Pedro Telechea delivered the PDVSA's brain, the administration of wells, of operations, of agreements, to the same company that participated at the coup d'état in 2002. Innocent. Well, so far there cannot be innocent people at those levels. With payments made by licenses. For example, we don't have the licenses, and I must say I must say to people that these licenses are not worth $20, but millions of dollars worth, putting at high risk the stability of the oil industry in Venezuela. Again, there, President Maduro has been steadfast, extremely steadfast and firm. He has been inflexible about it. He does not allow any distortions, any deviation, and so the prosecutor's office has been investigating about this, and the national government has done what it takes, what it corresponds. And if this would happen in a political party, if opposition leaders did this, there will be silence about this, because it is a complicit society. So it is a deepening investigation in PDVSA, and unfortunately we have to review methods. The Bolivarian Revolution is in constant review of procedures of the exercises of power, of being able to do things and how you do things. And so President Maduro has been clear, and the national entities have been crystal clear, and we regret deeply, because no one has been designated with the responsibility for them to deliver things to the U.S. And we have to highlight that company is a U.S. company, and so it is the same company that they were delivering the management of the Venezuelan oil industry. Imagine the abyss in which we were about to fall, and so they were preparing another April 11. So we are researching about this. We are looking into this with a lot of expertise, and of course the right wing surprises. And every time the revolution acts and the judicial system acts, the Venezuelan right wing comes out in defense of these corrupted people involved in corruption and treason to the homeland. It is very suspicious. Just for the analysis and evaluation of Venezuelans that are listening to us right now, they immediately come out and say that they are kidnapped, and so it is very rare, it is very strange, right? They go from a successful manager to a traitor to the homeland. And so if you want to look in an adversary lines, you have to, well, I repeat that this is part of the investigation. The Venezuelan state condemns absolutely any action or act of corruption, and not only condemns, but the Venezuelan state will persecute till the last consequences any act of homeland. So delivering the administration, the agreements of the main industry to to the to the government of the United States implies an act of treason to the homeland. I see it like this. And as this is the same company of the 2002. So opposition leaders continue defending the undefensible, but we have the commitment with tranquility, with peace, with the people. We cannot be bribed or blackmailed. President cannot be blackmailed, and we cannot be blackmailed, and we won't allow any action of this kind. Well, thank you very much for being here. And this act of corruption in the Zulia state, in the municipality of Maracaibo, it is a masterpiece and a design of the Venezuelan opposition. They are bad at the opposition, but are worse governing, ruling. They are very corrupted. They cannot see a Bolivar because they stole all the money. They have been elected to serve as public officials, and they know it.
We were listening to the statements of Interior Minister of Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, as the fight against corruption continues in the Bolivarian nation, and the minister was providing evidence of a new network of corruption in Zulia State in Maracaibo. He was providing evidence of how they dismantled this network of corruption within state officials that were elected in this region of the Venezuelan state, and they were taking funds from the state to fund destabilizing actions and to steal from missions that were intended to provide help to the people, like in the case of one of the detainees that was in charge of stealing money from Mission Bolivar, that was sending children abroad to have surgery, backbone marrow transplant surgeries, and they stole this money that will harm the children of the region. So the fight against corruption continues in Venezuela. The Interior Ministry will continue to fight to preserve peace and stability in Venezuela. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.